Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman Fairwell.
Here.
Alderman Higa.
Here.
Alderman Montoya. Alderman Yee. Alderman Carr. Alderman Johnson.
Here. Are we the forum? We have swearing in on firefighters. Fire chief Hayward.
No, that's when the policemen stay on one to visit their arms. While you do. Fire service, fire officers.
Here we do it. It's really cool. That's required. Probably got it. Up and on. All right. Raise your right hand.
Just kidding.
I say your name.
I, Justice Smollett,
Do solemnly swear.
solemnly
Or affirm. That I will protect the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
protect the Constitution of the State of Illinois
And the United States.
and the United States,
Fill the office of firefighter.
fulfill the office of firefighter
Best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
Solemnly.
Congratulations.
Man, I like that you missed it.
All right, congratulations.
I think I'm in wrong.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Joe Padilla,
Solemnly swear.
solemnly swear
Or affirm. That I will uphold the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
that I will uphold the Constitution of the State of Illinois
And the United States of America.
and the United States of America,
So do we
fulfill the duty of
fireman
fireman
for the city of Blue Island.
for the city of Blue Island,
Best of your ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Donuts make the police. Take. So is it red have to make fire department?
I like going back.
Yes, sir.
Next question.
All on time. Next.
All right, congratulations. Thank you. We'll break for a couple minutes unless you guys want to watch the meeting, but I'm sure you guys have other plans, so go ahead.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are you gonna mustache like that? Fred had a mustache just like that.
Oh, so you engaged in hanging out?
Record reflect Alderman Montoya, being a wow. Continue on with the report presentation of general proceedings. I need a motion to approve the city council minutes from March 22nd, 2022. Regular city council meeting, a motion by Alderman Rawls, is there a second? Alderman McGee. On the question? Not clerk, please roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Reba.
Aye.
Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, Your Honor.
Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments. Any public comment?
Good evening. Tom Joseph, representing Main Street in the Illinois Association of Realtors. Serving as Government Affairs Director for the past 20 plus years, and I haven't really had to visit Blue Island before, except for a mayor's and managers meeting, some other activities here, some stakeholder sessions back in the day, I guess. But I am here this evening just to speak under the staff attorney's report in reference to the fair housing ordinance related to the building codes. It's item number 2022. In my duties representing Main Street to the members of the City Council and to you, Mayor Bellotta, I deal with about 70 plus communities south of 88, south of I-88, coming to 55 and to the Indiana line. So I work with about 30 plus communities directly or indirectly that conduct inspections. Most of them, if not all, conduct them on a fairly regular quarterly basis, as Blue Island has historically. But based upon the proposed amendment that's before the City Council this evening, as outlined, as drafted, present, as we discuss it here this evening, there's a 15-day period for notification on the front end. And then there's an agreed aspect of the ordinance that passed 2 weeks ago, which states that the inspection report would be provided for within a 7-day period. So if you combine the amended side of those 7 days, that would be looking at about a 22-day window. And that would seriously potentially harm real estate transactions. They are in a timely manner, they are efficient, and you have to have an appraisal that's done. You have to also have a window period for the mortgage. Normally it's about a 21 to 30 day window period on the mortgage itself, depending on the process and the lending ability. Now, based upon the city's aspect of the inspection, a homeowner may have to, based upon the inspection, a homeowner may have to hire a contractor or two to do specific work based upon the inspection requirements that are outlined. So it's in the owner's interest to have that as expedited as possible so that you can address those processes that need to be done, because normally there's a re-inspection that the city would require, obviously based upon the work that's needed and outlined per the inspection. So if an owner has to hire a contractor or two, that can take a week or two just to hire the contractor and get them out to do this either on the exterior side or on the interior side of the house. So that's a very deliberative process. So you do not think it's advisable or reasonable to have some sort of extended notification period on the front end of a 15-day requirement? From what I can gather from the minutes and what it's not clear as to why that's needed. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, I think what the city's goal is to have a reasonable inspection, to have it conducted in an orderly process, efficient process administratively, and to share that information as quickly as possible with the owner of property so that they can then conduct the business that they need to do. And obviously contact the city again to conduct a re-inspection, and they may even have to come out a third time depending on what it is that's done or not done correctly. And so that can add days to the process itself. I'm not aware of any community in northern Illinois, or certainly south of that I-88, that has some sort of 14-day notification period on the front end. It seems to intrude on an owner's rights as a property owner. But the 7-day that was floated and adopted, I believe 2 weeks ago, we weren't necessarily fans of that, but we thought within a 7-day window period that was reasonable. Normally an inspection by most communities is within when they come out to do the inspection, it's about 2 days, 3 days, and they provide the inspection report, sometimes the day of, or later that day, or 24 hours or so. So I think you're getting my point that it's important to have an efficient inspection, but not one that just drags out endlessly with a 15+ day notification and then a 7 day, up to 7 days to get the inspection report. I think that's just going to create a backlog for inspections and real estate process and transactions ultimately. And I think it's a hindrance to the property owner, and it's frankly unfair to them. And the only point I would make essentially in closing is that the city of Blue Island, and I've represented the realtors for over 21 years now. I have never come to a city council meeting to speak to an inspection process. You certainly have every right to conduct an inspection if that's what you choose to do, and you have chosen to apply an inspection. The state of Illinois does not require you to have an inspection, but as a municipal body, you certainly have a right to have a health and safety inspection. But you are not a home rule community, so you can't invent your own process here. You have to stay within state statute, state law. And state law speaks to health and safety, and you certainly have every right to conduct that as you choose to at this present time, as we have over the years. But to try to create a more elaborate process where there's 15 days notification and then a 7 day, on the backside, that's over 21 days. I do not know of any other community that does that, even the home rule community. So we would just ask you to look at that as it comes up on the agenda a little later, and we would ask that you oppose it as a city council, and certainly not adopt a 15-day notification period. So I'll be glad to answer your questions.
No, that's it, and you can stick around for the conversation we'll have when we get to that part of the agenda.
Thank you
But I
very
think
much.
there's parts of it that are incorrectly informed or we'll get clarity on, and we can amend something on the floor also.
Okay, well, we're glad to hear what
We don't have to exactly throw everything out with bath water, we can amend something.
Oh, of course, but like I said, 15 days is just,
If you want, you can stick around for the agenda.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Now moving on, we have under mayor's reports, a motion for approval of payroll for April 1st, 2022, the amount of $330,022.87. Is there a motion? Motion by Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Carr on the question. Not clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next, we have motion for approval of accounts payable, in the amount of $749,026.93. Is there a motion? Motion by Alderman Roll, second by Alderman Montoya on the question. Good.
I just didn't know, I think you skipped minutes.
What?
No, we did that.
Oh, we didn't, okay, I wasn't asleep, sorry.
Not clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, Your Honor.
Motion carries. Next, we have a motion to consent to mayoral appointments for planning and zoning. This is a brand new committee. We had less than the 6 months on the initial terms of David Johnson, Annette Alexander, and Jason Berry. All three have requested to serve another term. So I'm asking for a motion to reappoint the existing members on the board to stay on the board. Is there a motion? Motion by Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Rita on the question. Not clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you. The next one, we have a lot of vacancies on, but mostly reappointments. For the Historic Preservation Commission, I'd like to reappoint Tom Mantell as chair, Earl Summers as vice chair, Brad St. Ledger, Alex Gomez, Pat Disabato. We have a lot of vacancies on this board, so I'd like a motion and a second to approve consent of my appointments.
How many vacancies?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. A lot of these are expired terms that are reappointing the same people on the term. So, adding a few on. So motion by Alderman Fairwell, second by Alderman Roll on the question. Clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Alderman Zelning, aye.
Is that aye?
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Probably at the next meeting, we're going to have civil service and library board. Finally getting a handle on a lot of the stuff with record keeping that, or record keeping exists in the past with those terms after meeting with a lot of the chairman. And so I'll have probably library board, at least library board and civil service at the next meeting. And probably just looking at reappointing the people that are there, but their terms have expired and they have graciously been continuing going to meetings. So look forward to that. Next, we have a motion to temporarily suspend the city's COVID-19 face covering, employee testing and vaccination policy pursuant to guidance from the CDC and Illinois Department of Labor. Is there a motion? Motion by Alderman McGee, second by Alderman Rita on the question. On the question.
So is this, I don't know exactly what it entails, particularly regarding vaccinations. I know we had a requirement of some sort. Does this mean that someone who didn't get vaccinated when it was required will now have to get vaccinated, or how does that work?
Our policy was vaccine or test weekly, and so currently we have been testing all of our employees who are not vaccinated. Based on the new guidance from the CDC.
Please.
Based on the new guidance from the CDC and the Illinois Department of Labor, we no longer have to implement that vaccination or testing or masking protocol. The only people subject to the vaccination or testing would be those required under the governor's orders, which is only healthcare employees and teachers.
Any questions or comments? Clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
No.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes and 1 no.
Carries. Next, we have a resolution, the City of Blue County, Illinois, authorizing a request for proposal for the sale and disposition of city-owned properties. There's some of them that fell through the last time we approved. I believe there's only one vacant lot that's added to this list, it's a vacant lot. But we've already hashed these properties out in committee, the same rules apply, and it's pretty much it, cut and dry. Is there a motion? Alderman McGee, second by Alderman Roll on the question.
Which was the property that was added? Broadway, what are you?
They're listed in there.
12419.
Yeah, our fusion was on the last one.
119 Greenwood.
I was, it's not, that's not.
I don't see it listed here.
124.
119, I see a list of 8 properties open in the packet.
I just don't see that property listed.
Greenwood's a land bank, well, hold on, I'll get to this, all right. 141st Street, first one on, wasn't on our last list. They gave us title for property, it's a house that is falling over, if someone bids on it, great, if not, we're probably gonna sell it.
What's the address again?
3127 West 141st Street,
And is this going through the same process?
same exact process,
That's fine.
nothing's changed. The rest of these were, the buyer backed out, I can tell you vacant lots that I know offhand, Chatham's a vacant lot. Chatham's only vacant lot out there. The rest of these are houses or what's remaining of houses. And after this, if no one bids on these again, we're probably going to talk about demolition.
Kind of urge the city to put it on some kind of platform to promote it a little bit more. Get some more exposure, get the highest and best bid.
Any other questions? Clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Rita.
Aye.
Alderman Montoya. Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
7 ayes, Your Honor.
Motion carries. For my comments, it's pretty much rehashing what was already shared on Facebook. But as you're most likely aware, past weekend, a video of an ugly incident involving the owner of a Blue Island establishment using hateful and racist language circulated around social media, which shared me tonight happened. I said at the time, and I'll say it again for the record, this kind of hate has no home in Blue Island. We are a diverse and inclusive community, and the vile language and behavior expressed in the video question does not reflect the true character of the city and its residents. I've been in frequent communication with my administration and the police department regarding this incident, and and there is currently ongoing investigation, internal investigation. We'll continue to monitor and respond to this episode as the issue evolves and update based on the investigation. If anybody wants to talk further, police chief or myself is available to talk on a one-on-one basis, since there's no executive session on tonight, but there is an investigation. They're still interviewing us yesterday. I hope each of the members of the council will join me, Clerk Zillman, Treasurer Fausto, and the entire city staff in leading by example and showing that the Blue Island we know is not reflected in one unfortunate viral video, and that our community is strong enough to rise above hate. Thank you. City clerk report.
I have a lot of things. City Hall will be closed on Friday, April 15th. April 15th is Good Friday, Saint Magdalene, is that right? I said right, the parish is normally
St. Magdalene, St. Mary Magdalene.
Normally, St. Benedict's will be having their annual Stations of the Cross celebration with a walk this Friday. The library, April 16th, the library will be doing their burning of the snowman, which was postponed. It'll be at 4 o'clock. April 29th, the new church, upper room on 120th Street, a family fun bingo night, 7 o'clock. April 30th is the Mayfest, the Arts and Craft Fair at Old Western. There's a First Lutheran Church has a new pastor, Bethany Ulrich. They'll be having services Monday and Thursday at 7 o'clock, Good Friday at 7 o'clock, and Easter Sunday at 10 o'clock. Hometown Heroes, we have about, as of when I left office today, we have about 21 veterans that have turned their information in, and a few more have called, so we're getting up there and we're working on it. Community cleanup, we have over 170 people that have volunteered to work on April 23rd, and we have over 14 sponsors, so that's going great. And if any other out there would like to join us, we still have some more stuff available. Other than that, July 3rd, the fireworks celebration, it's gonna be bigger and better this year. If you'd like to be a craft vendor, please contact the clerk's office. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Treasury report. We have our treasurer joining us tonight.
Anyway, preparing because I just wanted to thank everybody, all the city council, city staff, friends, family, my wife, kids, my 218 family, just so many people that reached out. With their well wishes, thoughts, prayers, support. I wouldn't be doing this because I wasn't about. There's so much I gotta say, but I'll just keep it short because I'll just get even more choked up. Thank you to everybody. And besides that, if I could just have a motion to approve the monthly treasurer's report ending March 31st.
Motion Alderman Roll, second Alderman McGee. On the question,
No question. I was just gonna second because he's here.
clerk, please do the roll.
Alderman Johnson,
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell,
Aye.
Alderman Rita,
Aye.
Alderman Montoya.
Aye.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
7 ayes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next under city attorney reports from ordinance of the city of Blue Island regarding fair housing, the city code. I know the attorney wants to clarify some things, based on the ordinance.
So we've been working on this ordinance for a little while now, going back and forth between the building department and ourselves. We did approve a version at the last meeting. Once the building department looked at it, they said there's no way with the amount of staff that they have, they can turn around things as quickly. The difference in what our ordinance is versus maybe what I know Alderman McGee had emailed some examples from other municipalities, those related to permit inspections. This ordinance only relates to intent to sell or intent to rent inspections. And the sooner the owner tells us, the sooner we can have that turned around. We just need 7 days to be able to do so. Our requirement is they have to at least tell us 14 days before the, 14 days before the closing. Whether or not, they have to tell us 14 days before the closing to come in and do the inspection. they could tell us much before that, and the inspection could be done, et cetera, before we even get into their closing. As soon as the PSA is signed, they could contact the building department if they had concerns that this would take a while to turn around. But based on the size of our department, the building department does believe that this time frame is required, which is 14 days prior to a closing, and then give them 7 days to turn the report around. They can do it anytime they want. They can do it much before that. This is just the absolute last time they can do it before they close on a building. I did hear during public comments that not many municipalities have timelines like this, but this is well within the Illinois statute, and I reviewed several municipal ordinances relating to intent to sell, and it's very consistent with those municipalities. So I think it's completely appropriate. I think based on the size of our building staff, our building department is telling us what they need in terms of this turnaround, and it really shouldn't have a negative effect on a building owner who's trying to sell or attempting to rent, because they have all the time in the world before that 14 days to provide the building department with notice, and they'll get in there and do it.
So just one quick question about the 14-day notice. I mean, I know from my limited experience with closings that sometimes you don't know, until practically the day of closing when the closing is going to be. So I'm unsure about how they would work in the practical world.
So I'll give you an example. And I guess maybe I've been progressive. I've sold houses in the past. Before I put it on the market with a realtor, I would request the inspection to make sure if there's any repairs before I put it on the market. There's no timeline. I can do that at any time. We're saying no sooner than 14 days for your closing date. You need to have a city inspection.
So a lot of things come before the closing, the purchase and sale agreement, the discussions with the buyer about that purchase and sale agreement, their inspection. There's a lot that goes on before the closing that allows the owner to come in and request the intent to sell inspection.
Sometimes closings are actually set the week prior.
But if a house goes up for, if I want to sell a house, I'm gonna take myself out of the mayor's role, because the mayor, I'd like the more inspections, the better, protecting the housing market for the city. But let's take myself out of the role when I'm trying to sell my house where I live on Rexford. I'm gonna call for a city inspection before I can call you as a realtor.
Correct.
And then this timeline doesn't even matter.
We should encourage homeowners on our website, to come in at the earliest convenience, definitely.
The shorter the
sooner the better.
The shorter the timeline is, the more pressure it is on the building department to comply. If they don't comply, then what? They sell the house without an inspection.
Yes.
So the longer the timeline, the more benefits the city. Now, devil's advocate, benefits the city the longer the timeline, but doesn't benefit the person trying to sell the house. No. But as the city, I think 7 to 14 days is plenty, more than accurate, more than enough.
If you add in like the various, any time prior to, that would be fine. However, the way that this ordinance is written, it doesn't stipulate 15 days prior to closing. It just says that 15 days, that the building department will have 15 days to perform the inspection.
Yeah, this is only a portion of what we approved last week. So if you read everything we approved last week in conjunction with this, it does have the language before closing. You and I have talked about that. And so the ordinance that was passed last week contains that language elsewhere. And if you read it in totality, you'll understand that this is 15 days before the closing. If you want me to add that into this paragraph as well, that's fine. But when you read it as a whole, that's what the document says. Yes,
But it's two separate,
it's
two separate ordinances.
no, it's the same code. The same code section that we're amending. So I only put in this ordinance the revisions that we were doing today to what was approved last week in terms of that code.
Alderman Johnson.
Yeah, yes, council. It's just a question. This timeline could actually even get shorter. Once we become more, I guess, fully staffed for the building department. So this is actually like,
Absolutely, this
This-
is
this
just the
is the-
maximum time we're
Right.
giving our department.
it can be
Oh,
short.
yes.
But so with you adding both of those, under the same code, is it possible for you to add that language, like you stated before?
In,
Because when you kind of look at it from a different perspective, it kind of looks like, it's stretched out that for 21 days, let me say it in that manner. But the way you just explained it makes a lot more, it's more clarity to it. Is what I'm
We
trying
had
to
the
do.
language in, just, I want to put my department, which is only 2 inspectors, Bob and Mark.
Right.
They don't get under there some days, let's say one's sick or got COVID, I think the
Right.
electrical inspector or the building inspector, which are both part-time.
Right.
To get there, then the house doesn't get inspected and it gets sold, and then we're dealing with 5 apartments in a basement with 6 feet.
Right.
You know,
I understand.
as a city, we
completely.
want a longer timeline. I don't want to hurt people selling their houses either, so there's got to be a fine line. I think this is a good, as long as we add this language in, as ultimately be asked for, I think we're okay.
Right, that's what I was saying, because it could be contingent upon the sale of this home for me to buy another.
And I just want to clarify something right now. So these are sections B and D. Those are the only sections that change. Section A says that all owners, commercial or residential property offered for sale or rental within the city must notify the city building department with notice no more than 10 days after a purchase and sale agreement is executed, or no more than 10 days before public notification of an intent to rent is made or published, whichever is first. So this actually doesn't reference the closing, it references the purchase sale agreement.
That references when the homeowner is to go in and order their inspection.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's what this-
And this paragraph,
does it
says
say-
when our building inspector comes out, how long they have to come out to inspect the property.
They have the 15 days after notice.
And
So I will clarify that, if
Yeah.
that's still not clear.
And you just brought me another issue. We have a big issue in town, the previous council, this council, I hope feel the same, with
And plus it's
multi-units, all right? So we have a lot of realtors that list a house that's got 6 units, okay? But really it's a single-family house. If they had their inspection done before listing, it wouldn't be listed incorrectly, we wouldn't have all the issues the building department have today. So by any means, we should be encouraging people to inspect their home before they're listing a house, so it's an accurate description of the realtor.
Yes, we should-
On the MLS.
On our city website as well, we should also put on our inspection page, to come in, ideally, they would come in prior to listing their property.
I like that worded too, ideally. You can't force somebody to do it,
Yes.
but that's the perfect example.
That
Where
would
the
be
building
the deadline.
department and the realtor on the same page, everybody,
Yes.
closings happen, we're about zoning, we have issues right now, what's on the agenda tonight, well, not tonight, for the committee today, tomorrow. But we have issue with 2 flats that were never legally converted to 2 flats. So they have to go through the whole planning and zoning process because they were listed incorrectly to begin with.
Yes.
So we're trying to address that, but this would help that, yes. Alderman Reed.
Does this also pertain to, it pertains to rental agreement, right? Does that mean every time, so say if you have a quick turnover with renters, they have to get an inspection every time?
That's law, it's always.
Yeah, that's always been done.
Every
In and
I
time.
don't know, that's,
In and out, when they leave and when the new ones come in.
That has always been the case, and that's something I highly discourage. I don't even know if that's a state thing. You have to have an inspection, and actually any units that are more than 3 have to be yearly inspected because they're occupied. So if you own a building that's more than 3 units, in our code, this was to have a yearly inspection, which I know the department's starting to crack down on. Even if they're occupied. So this is nothing to do with that.
Well, going back to this, again, I don't think that we can pass it the way it is written. For sure, it says, and plus it says 15 business days, so that's Monday through Friday. That's actually 3 weeks out, because Monday through Friday, Monday through Friday, Monday through Friday, that's 15, that's 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks in which the building department has to, technically not show up to do an inspection.
So make an amendment.
This is what the building department requested based on their resources right now. They have inspections lined up, they have them, scheduled, And so when a request comes in, they're just saying, please give us some time to get this done. We're not, 15 days is what we need right now, maximum. But if you
Well,
want to
I mean,
amend that,
I wish Bob was here actually, so that he can,
you know, he asked me
if
if he should
he's-
be here, and I didn't
Yeah.
think that it was necessary.
if,
At the end of the day, the city position should be the longer, the better to protect our departments and make sure inspections are correct. However, I understand over his position that we shouldn't discourage people from selling houses. I believe we've been hammering this thing out. If we want the business days to calendar days, I'm okay with that. But I think we need to get this on the books.
That would be better than business days, because those weekends stretch it out for a whole week.
Great. Alderman Rowe.
Given that the gist of this is that we're essentially shorthanded in the building department, is there a willingness to tighten these timelines again? I know we're actively looking to reinforce staff.
I have no problem with amending the ordinance. We've been doing them now and stop for a year, so yes, Alderman.
Yeah, I was
would
going to
kind of
suggest that as well.
motion to this and not amend the ordinance, but to maybe improve the staffing situation with the building department.
Could I ask, Wes, is this at all related to, I'm not very familiar with how this works, I'm just kind of asking a question of ignorance, but I understand we have limited manpower, and is there technology available that would speed this process up also that we should be considering?
And that's one thing I did speak with Bob about the getting tablets, and we've all spoken about this. I believe, in which you could just shoot off an email and, give the homeowner their inspection report right away.
I did speak to Bob about that conversation that you and I had about tablets. He said that there's still a lot of technology that goes into it. It's not an automatic email. They have to go through things, they have to look through things. It's not a 24-hour process. And there's no communities that he was aware of that were doing this in 24 hours.
Well, as you've heard, there are other communities that do it. So.
Yes,
With all due respect, this is not public comment, sir.
yeah, no, I just said
We have
yes.
to work out the residents' best interests for the city of Blue Island, not the Realtor Association, not home rule, not home rule, with the conversations we're not having. The longer the timeline is better for the city of Blue Island. However, I keep saying, devil's advocate, I'm a property owner myself. I understand it has to be a compromise. But the city of Blue Island, we should be notified 6 months then before we sell a house. And the city would be great. We get our ducks in a row. No one goes to planning and zoning. We get everything done. But nobody's under the gun. Yeah, that's great. But there's got to be a compromise. I think
The notification of.
2 weeks is plenty of time to notify the house
From the
owner.
homeowner, the notification from the homeowner, yes, we can ask and we can put it on our website anytime prior to, or, listing, ideally listing of your property for sale. The sooner the better, stuff, wording, verbiage like that on our city website, it would suffice, but this is specifically stating, the building department's timeline on completing an inspection for each and every one of us as homeowners. And if they take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you could lose a buyer for your house.
I just want to, it's just to notify you.
It's in the best interest of the public.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
for someone who sold houses in here, my own personal residence to begin with, if you're going to sell your house,
1,000 houses, yeah.
if you sell your house, I think 2 weeks is plenty of notifications to the building department. Hey, I'm thinking of selling my house. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, and we have that part is not on the agenda. The part that's on the agenda is how long the building department has to come out. After you say, hey, I would like an inspection, the building department is gonna say, okay, that's great, I'll put it in the stack of paper over here, and then get to it in 2
That's
3
what the
weeks.
building department needs. It's a maximum number. It's not
We
saying
need
we're
to
going to take
possibly,
15 days,
you know,
which is right now,
maybe
this is what we need. And we don't want to be
Make the building
violating our
department more
own code.
efficient.
We don't
than-
want to violate our own code if we can't get there in time. They've been doing this, they know what the schedule is, and I'm just bringing you guys the request from the department. This is what they need right now, it's a maximum, it can change later if we have more employees. They're very busy, and this is what they asked. What
Also, we
happens
don't
if
have,
we don't?
Alderman, I'm calling you.
So,
We have a plumbing inspector that's part-time, we have an electrical inspector that's part-time, they're only as needed basis. You have to give them time to schedule for these home inspections if needed. We don't have the salary, nor will we ever have the salary to make those positions full-time. So leaving a smaller than 2 week calendar days, which I saw as I'm agreeable to amendment, is still very short staff. Let's say our electrical inspector is on vacation. we can't inspect the house for electrical code compliance. Then they get sold without compliance, and so what? The house burns down, we have 3 units in the basement, whatever it is. That's the risk that put in the city in. So I think by amending 15 calendar days to business days to calendar days, I think it's a big step in accommodating your request, Alden. Right? We're trying to protect the city at the end of the day, not the realtor
I
association.
understand that, I understand that, but it's not about the realtor association, it's about the homeowner.
The homeowner needs to notify the city they're selling their
Advocate
house.
for the homeowner.
Yes, they should notify the city they're selling their house.
Yes, but again, this is not what this ordinance.
The sooner they notify the city, the sooner the inspection starts.
This ordinance pertains to how long the building department has to come out, and then how long it takes for the an inspection report.
I would like to request something here to move this along, but also have all the information I think we need. I will say, we have discussed this numerous times, and the building department could have been. But given that I am not frankly clear, and it's out of ignorance on my part, frankly, how this whole process would work in real time. I hear all of McGee's concerns, and I believe that he has legitimate. I hear your concerns. I believe you have legitimate concerns. Personally, I don't have enough information right now to make this decision. I would like to see some kind of a document for dummies that lays this out. How's this work in the real world, and what are we trying to accomplish here? Because I am not going to vote for this tonight.
Alderman,
So what are the consequences if the building department doesn't meet the date?
no inspection, they can close.
They can just close.
Yes.
That's not it.
No, that's the point.
Right.
That's the point.
Well, our building department has to get out there and do the inspection within a timely manner.
I don't want to.
Every home, if you hire an
I'm not saying we can
independent
amend
in the
this.
private
We can
sector,
amend this.
they would come
We
out
have to
and
set
with
boundaries with what we can afford and what we currently can do. We're doing stuff we've never done before, which is difficult. But we're trying to correct certain practices in the past. I'm still talking, Alderman, please. I'm still talking, all right?
Go ahead.
All right. We have to think what's best for the city first. I'm fine with tabling this. But at the end of the day, I'm flabbergasted for why the benefit of the city for 2-week notice to schedule an intent to sell inspection is becoming this much discussion. Because if we were elected to represent the best interests for the city, we would want this to be as long as possible. Again, I keep saying, I'm in a position as yourself that I do want to sell homes every once in a while. But I'm taking my position off the table.
That's a personal position,
It's
yes.
a personal position,
Yes.
yes. But for the best of the city, I think 2 weeks is more than enough. However, if you want to continue this conversation in the next meeting, I'm fine with that also. But we should be thinking what's best for the city in every aspect. And I think we're being too narrow-minded, taking on how long forcing our department to work outside of their means and capabilities is a subject that we're spending way too much time on right
Well, I mean, if we remove this altogether and you know, vote to remove this verbiage altogether from the ordinance, then we wouldn't have any conflict. I mean, the city would still have to come out and do the inspection. There would be no,
They would have no timeline. I mean, that's fine.
There's no timeline, so that means the homeowner can wait a month to sell the house too.
Which is,
I'm okay
it
with
should be
that.
done in a timely fashion. It should be done in a timely fashion.
They want to just remove the dates and just put timely fashion.
No.
I mean, I'm trying to move this forward, Alderman.
I understand your point. It just, again,
Alderman Johnson, Alderman Johnson.
My, it's directed towards Alderman. I understand the concern that you have with that, especially being in the profession. But also, when you look at the staffing that we have in providing, in every department is really, we're understaffed. And to get the type of, I guess, what you're looking for, we really can't afford to even pay those people like that.
oh, I understand.
So they got 2 guys that's trying to do a mountain of things. And if the housing turnover, like this property things that they got started to sell, they're gonna be very overwhelmed. And to make 14 days will still be hard, but not impossible. But it also gives them a timeline where, because timely manner would be 2 years, you know, just being facetious about it, you know what I'm saying? But if we have something in place, like the mayor said, we can always come in, you know know what I mean? So just to have something in place now, until we get fully staffed, we can amend.
I think we take in the Alderman's consideration. I'd like to ask for an amendment to calendar days and all the other verbiage we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I would motion to table this. I would like to motion to
I'm
table it.
second.
Table it,
Yeah.
motion made and seconded table. Is there a question? Or do we do the roll? Just declare what's on our books right now. We're going into a season on the tables till next month.
Right, no, what's on our books is what we passed at the last meeting,
So what's that?
which is,
They are swimming right, they're drowning right now.
And then they go on vacation.
And just to clarify, our building, our electrical and plumbing are not part-time, they are all on-call basis only. All right, so they're on-call, they're not even here.
right now, what you see in front of you is the building department would have 7 business days to perform the inspection. And they would have 1 business day after the compliance inspection to provide the written report.
So it means
That's what was passed.
one person
last
calls
meeting.
off, we're not meeting this criteria.
Well, if
We
I'm,
only have one administrative assistant.
if I'm correct, when they go with their inspection form, it's the old school forms that are in triplicate, right? With the white copy and the yellow copy and then like the green copy. After the inspection, a lot of the work I believe the investigative work is done prior to going to the property. Once all that is ascertained, then they review the physical characteristics of the property. And after the inspection is completed, it can give a copy to the homeowner.
But you're Alderman, that's not how the process works in Blue Island. First of all, we're trying to change everything we're doing here. Secondly, they will not be able to do what you're asking right now. In a perfect scenario, even if we hired a part-time inspector, which they're interviewing for right now, they're not going to be able to do at all. So we're putting the city at risk. We are currently doing the city at risk right now since we passed this, and that's why I brought it up. When have I ever brought something back to an agenda? We've already passed it, never, this is the first time. Because our department cannot do it. They're doing loads more, by everybody's saying, than the previous departments.
I think then we need to, it's a bigger discussion of staffing.
I think we're putting the city at risk for one more month with a hot market right now, with everybody listing a house in the spring. All right, they will not be able to comply with this.
And if
If you're
somebody
comfortable with
quits-
that, Alderman, then I think we're fine with being comfortable with putting the city at risk.
I think 14 days, we're gonna kill transactions. With.
Do we care as a city if we kill transactions? We care about the city of Blue Island having safety and health and fire code abiding to.
These are our.
I don't care about real estate
These are our
agents.
residents.
I don't care about zoning,
These are our
about
residents.
helping out real estate associations. or
It-
agents.
it's-
I'm caring
that
about the
has
city
nothing
of
to
Blue
do with
Island.
anything.
Alderman,
That
it is. Our staff cannot do
if
it.
your next door neighbor is trying to sell her house and can't sell her house because of Blue Island, are we doing them a disservice? That's what
But
we're
they're selling
doing.
their house. We gotta worry about if the house is compliant. It's a safety risk
Yes.
for our
yes.
fire and police. We need that inspection to be
Hence
completed.
why the inspector needs to come out in the time.
Then we need to increase our taxes to pay for additional
And 7
inspections.
business days, it's actually 10.
Alderman, it's
That's
not
10 full
realistic.
days.
It's not realistic.
It's
And
10
that's-
full days.
For 24 hours is not realistic for the city of Blue Island our size. Alderman Roll.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment, I think, no matter what time period we put on the ordinance, it's not going to change the throughput of the department. So the real solution to the problem is ultimately in the department and in the resources they have available. However, leaving the language as it is or unchanged puts us at unnecessary risk. We can always change it back once the department's made more efficient or more resourceful, but whether we put
How
14
likely
days
are
or
we
2
actually gonna
days,
go ahead and modify that after?
but why not? And the thing is,
I don't believe that would actually occur once we get comfortable with the 14-day time frame and it becomes business as
I'd
usual.
rather,
That's just unsafe.
Alderman Roll, I believe, is still
Okay.
talking. Alderman Roll is still talking, I believe. But I also have a comment also. Thank you, Alderman Roll.
I'm just saying that's my preference. I would rather not leave the city exposed to more risk. I don't see why we couldn't revisit this. But I think, again, at the core of this is, no matter what we put, the department, I don't believe is going to be doing more or less based on these numbers, only, within a certain amount. Reality is they can just do what they can do, and that they're doing their best right now.
Alderman.
Okay, so, couple of suggestions. One is, okay, first a question, just so because I'm not clear about something. If there is no inspection, what is the consequence?
They sell the house
They
without
sell-
inspection.
They sell the house without an inspection.
As long as the water bills paid off, they'll close it out the inspection.
This law wasn't written in existence, and we haven't had a problem prior to this. So.
Well, I highly disagree. The city has multiple problems with inspection not being done. Realtors listing multi-units, they're not multi-units. I would highly disagree with that statement. It's been a big concern for the city of Blue Island for multiple years, my entire life probably. They passed an ordinance in 1993 to curtail a lot of the issues we have that was never enforced back since then. So there's been a high issue, more than 50% rental just in town alone, highest probably in any south suburban community, if not more. We have 50% rental in town. This has been an issue for a long time.
We're discussing point of sale, not rental.
Right, so I'm still talking.
All of it.
All right, so, and I get all of these points, and I think that they're reasonable ones. I also get your points. What if we were to pass this, maybe modify at least to the no weekends, and put a 90-day, this is good for 90 days.
For 6 months.
Or whatever, we're gonna ask the building department to come back within that period of time with a plan for how they're gonna make this better.
I would like to hear from the building department exactly.
I agree.
Just like this.
Alderman?
It's my understanding, Alderman McGee, that you had multiple conversations with Mr.
I had
Gasparini.
one conversation.
Okay, and I mean, we gave everyone the opportunity to be able to speak to him. You were the one that showed interest in it. I thought you guys had come to an agreement. You came in
And
to council.
I thought that we came into an agreement as well. I come to find out later on that he was not in agreement.
No, yes, he said he could never have agreed to the 7-day and 1 day that we passed last meeting, and that time frame was not discussed with him. And the reason was because of staffing. Now, I know also that the city has been attempting and trying to hire in the building department for 4 months.
I agree. They're
And they
interviewing
are
now.
not, they're working on it.
This is an issue.
I mean, I would see if maybe he would be amicable to 10 days, 10 calendar days, not,
I think
as we're changing it to 14.
The longer we're talking about
calendar
this,
days.
Alderman, you mentioned changing from business to calendar. I agree to that. Now we're moving the goalposts. I listen to Alderman Fairwell about revisiting this. I'm fine with that. The issue is right now, as we all know, it's market right now. We're leaving the city at risk right now. I believe let's revisit this once the market goes down a little bit, which historically would be in a few months down the road. All right, I just can't believe we're talking about this much. Because the right thing to do is to enforce something rather than nothing. So I'll take the Alderman amendments to the calendar days instead of business days and revisiting this in a few months.
And I had a motion.
I want to specifically.
Yeah, we had it, we'll add it. So the motion made and seconded to the table, we need to finalize that. However, if we want to change what we already agreed to with the motion table, just go to table, and then we have to revisit with the amendments. So right now, the clerk has to finish the vote.
So right now, McKee, and Fairwell. To table the amendment. Alderman Johnson.
Question. So if we table it, are we coming back for the amendment?
No, not this meeting, on the next
We'll be able
one.
to do it to the 26th.
Then we'll give the building department time.
If we want to back the amendments, we would have to vote no on the
Something more
amendment on the
amicable.
table and then reopen the conversation.
No. I don't want to table it.
Clerk,
So this is motion to table the ordinance.
I don't want to table it.
No?
Let's get something.
Alderman Fairwell.
Given the conversation we had, no.
Alderman Rita.
No,
Alderman Montoya.
No.
Alderman McGee.
Aye.
Alderman Carr.
no,
Alderman Roll.
no,
6 noes and 1 aye.
motions fails to table. Now, I'd like a motion made, to change the days to calendar days, based on the Alderman's suggestion, beginning of the conversation, and we revisit this in 6 months.
I'll make a motion.
That's the end, we're still at April, that's still the season, but 6 months is plenty of time, I think, to revisit this. Motion made by Alderman Reed, is there a second, Alderman Fairwell? Yes.
On this motion for the 6 months, I would like it to be, I don't know, we put the motion on, but I do want the building department to come to us
I want them to come to now.
with a plan.
I really didn't think, Alderman, this would be that big of a conversation. And I think they have to be here for when we continue this conversation.
If the building department was here, we could maybe come to, you know, 10 days and a 5 days or something. Some motion answer.
Made and seconded for the amendments. Roll call.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Fairwell.
Aye.
Alderman Frida. Aye.
So on behalf of the third ward, because we have many dilapidated and unsafe buildings, I just don't, I can't see the sale going forward without an inspection. And I also, as the mayor mentioned, about with the inspections with the rentals, because that affects our waste management revenue, our expenditure, and also our water bill revenue. So voting aye.
Alderman Montoya. Alderman McGee.
No.
Alderman Carr.
Aye.
Alderman Roll.
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 no.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Administrative announcements, reports, or comments?
Town Board City Administrator, two quick items. One is you've got for this fiscal year, the first of the revenue expenditure statements for this year. Just a couple notes on this. One, going to keep providing this in some fashion, hopefully at the very least in paper fashion. And as we talked about, we have some further discussions around this as it relates both to tracking spending, budget in general, et cetera. I would just, we're going to keep providing this as this first version of this. Just want a little caveat. We just onboarded Casper as our new accountant. They're into our books now. They are still making reconciliation changes and adjustments. So there's a few items on here that might jump out of the page for being things assigned to the wrong places that's still being cleaned up. We met with them on Monday, and their characterization was it was roughly 80 to 90% complete with their process. So that other 10 to 20% that still needs to be worked on here may lead to some funky looking items from time to time. So if you see anything, like I said, myself, like Tosca are available anytime to discuss further, clarify lines, what's coming out of there, et cetera. I just want to give this some context, and we're happy to answer your questions about it. Second thing is we are working, I know some folks have heard from business owners about license renewals. We are working on our business, liquor license, game license renewals, et cetera. The only reason we have not moved on pushing out the invoices yet is the lists we've inherited are appearing to be a bit antiquated. We found a few businesses that haven't even been required to license since 2017. We found some other snafus here and there, so we're working through that. But in the measure twice, cut once frame of mind, we're wanting to make sure we do one mailing that captures all active businesses in Rhode Island. So we're having to do some audit cleanup work on that, but it is high on our priority list for this week. So with that, that's all I have. Let's ask any questions for me.
Any questions? Thank you. Alderman announcements.
I want to just clarify just the amendment we made. My intent in my head, I'm not sure this is where we went with it, was in 6 months, how do I put it? What we just did expires.
We're going to open it back up.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Any Alderman comments, concerns, or not? Alderman Johnson?
Yes, I didn't know if I needed to direct this to all of us or Mr. Wolf. In the new codification, was there anything in there about the mannerism and behavior of a business owner, especially one in the possession of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms?
Back to you on that after I have a chance to. It's a legal question. I understand. But it would relate to our liquor code, as I understand it, and I do not know what the provisions are in there, so that would need some further investigation.
And it is ongoing investigation. Please, if you have any questions directed to the police chief or myself after the meeting, there's some case probably tell
Okay, I'm sorry.
you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to express my feelings about it, Mayor, about the situation that happened. That's clearly all over the place now. I don't personally have social media, but I had a phone call, and it was real disturbing to know that this still exists in 2022. You know, this was a setback to the city in the past. But as beautiful as this city is and the makeup of it is, there is no room for that ignorance. Whether it's talking about race or a certain ethnic group or religion or even gender. And I'm appalled at that, knowing that that type of person feels that way about a group of people, and I personally spend my own time. And that's terrible. And you and I had conversations about this already, and I know where you stand as well. And I appreciate really where we all have started going in a positive direction. I wanted to continue to do so. But with this ugliness, it's going to be hard.
10 steps forward, 20 steps back.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to express that person.
And I do very much appreciate your prompt response to that issue and the fact that there is an ongoing investigation. I think that's very important. And I completely agree with what Alderman Johnson had to say. It's very hurtful and harmful. I've always enjoyed living in this community because it is a diverse community, and it's one of the things that I like most about it. I certainly want to see it stay that way. So, I appreciate your efforts on that and encourage it. You guys are glad to visit.
Comments, concern? Not, no executive tonight. Feel free to talk to the police chief or myself at the meeting if you want more details on this scenario. We have a committee meeting tomorrow night. Anything else? Need a motion to adjourn?
Automatic also?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to publicly thank all my residents that came out and cleaned up over this weekend. We picked up a lot of trash in my ward. The kids were involved, the older residents, everybody was involved in helping clean up our ward. And I really appreciate them all pitching in. So I want to thank all my residents.
And Mayor, I'm sorry. The last meeting we was doing the appropriations and things of that nature. And I didn't send out, my condolences for simply and I'm sorry for that too.
City was represented.
Good.
Anything else? Motion for adjournment. Alderman, second by Alderman McGee. On the question, none. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?